You know what today is. It's the day that you're watching the last video. Should be Tuesday, by the way. And Wednesday is the day of the last meetings. So at the end of this, when I say goodbye, that's not goodbye forever, because, you know, we'll see each other again. So, but it is the last video of e-learning, and so congratulations. We're going to wrap up this marvelous topic of these Archimedean solids. Now, I'd like to first invite you to take a moment to count how many shapes are actually here. And then when you're done with that, you can look and have some thoughts. All right? So I'm going to wait a little bit. And in this area down here, I think that's where it was, you notice what little shapes are down there? Yeah. See, you would expect to see 13 Archimedean solids, but if you counted correctly in this, you found 18 shapes. So what's going on there? What's going on there is the extra 5 are the Platonic solids. Well, that's cool, because Platonic solids and Archimedean solids have very, very, very similar definitions. You know, in fact, it's have all faces being regular polygons, one vertex type, convex, symmetrical, you know, that kind of stuff. And you get an Archimedean solid. Well, if all the faces are the same, then you have the Platonic solids. So the Archimedean solids, you can have different kinds of polygons. Well, in order to discuss these, we did already talk about 7 of them. To review, we said take the Platonics, chop the corners off, you get new shapes in there. If you can do it in such a way that those are new regular polygons with the same edge length, then you get a new Archimedean solid that is a truncated, and then fill in the name of the Platonic. So those are pretty easy. The other 2, all the other Archimedean solids are actually based on the duals, or the quasi-regulars, you know, built out of the duals. So we have the cube octahedron, which is, you know, the quasi-regular solid, and we have the icosahedodecahedron. The thing about icosahedodecahedron, the spelling of that is there's not an A in it, is there? Yeah, icosahedodecahedron, not icosahedodecahedron. So, you know, that will be very useful to you in your lives when you have to spell the names of the Archimedean solids without being at a computer where you could look them up right there. So, let's say I never gave you anything. Yeah, please don't say that. But anyway. Nice image here. What we're going to do, we're going to clear this one out and bring in the one in color. Boing! It's so nice! Oh, man. That one's, wow. Yeah. All right. So, to just tackle the other 6, we've got them in, basically, I'm going to say that there's a pair and another pair and another pair, sort of, but they're all kind of related. So what we're going to do is we're going to deal with the cube octahedron first. And here you can see a big version of the cube octahedron. All right. If you did this, if you tried to treat this quasi-regular like a regular and chop off the corners, you would not wind up with squares. You wind up with something else. So take a look at it and try to visualize it. You cut the edges off, what would you get? If you said rectangle, and I like the way you're thinking. So the thought here is, you've got your set of things that are rectangles, and you got your set of things that are something else. And in between, where those 2 things intersect, you've got your set of squares. So rectangle, something else, square. What's the something else? And the answer is that something else is a rhombus, exactly. So if you could turn a rectangle into a rhombus and keep it being a rectangle, you make it into a square. And so that idea explains why, if we do that, if we chop off these edges and then just kind of tweak it a little bit, you can get the rhombocube octahedron. Now here's another way to build a rhombocube octahedron. So instead of start with the cube octahedron and truncate it, we could start with the cube by itself and expand it out. So allow the sides to separate, the front and back go far apart, and the top and the bottom move apart. And then what you do is, in the gap between those, you put in slanted shapes. You put squares in to fill all that stuff around. So you're adding 4 this way, 4 this way, and 4 this way. So adding a total of 12 squares to it. The only empty spaces that remain now are equilateral triangles. So you fill those in, and you have the original 6 squares, plus these new 12, plus the 8 triangles. And you have a 18 square, 8 equilateral triangle shape called the rhombocube octahedron. Okay, so that's one of the Archimedean solids. We're going to find another one by going back to that idea we just had, that thought experiment. Let's take the same cube, expand it, boom, boom, boom. But now, instead of filling in the space with squares like that, we're going to take 2 equilateral triangles that share a base. So that shape right there, 2 equilateral triangles, and put one on one square and one on the other. So it's going to twist a little bit. And we have to turn the squares for that to happen. But if we do that, putting 2 triangles at every spot where we used to put those 12 of the squares, these 24 triangles, are going to warp the cube a little bit. It'll turn out that the empty spaces that remain are 8 more triangles. So another way of thinking about this is take the rhombocube octahedron, take the slanted squares in it, and tweak them into rhombuses, and then bend them. And you get what's called a snub cube. So the snub cube is an interesting little shape. You can go look at when you see the big Archimedes picture again, you can zoom in on that and be like, that's a weird thing. Anyway, that's the snub cube, and you can think of it as being related to the rhombocube octahedron. So that covers 2 of our 6 remaining Archimedean solids. Let's go to the other quasi-regular made out of the duals. That is the Akasa dodecahedron. So what we can do is we can take the Akasa dodecahedron, truncate it, and now we're talking about truncating where 2 pentagons and 2 triangles met. That's going to form a rectangle. You want to rhombify that, and so we will have the Rhombakasa dodecahedron. Yeah, you want to say it. All right, I'll say it with you. Rhombakasa dodecahedron. One more time. Rhombakasa dodecahedron. You got to be saying it out loud. Come on now. Rhombakasa dodecahedron. All right, now all by yourself. Yeah, that was fun. Okay. Well, you could do the same thing with the squares that got created there. You could turn those into triangles and create the snub dodecahedron. So that's fun. Snub dodecahedron. Okay. And of course, you could go back to a dodecahedron, expand it out, tweak the edges, fill in all the triangles, and you'll get your snub dodecahedron as well. All right, let's deal with our last ones. We're going to go back to the rhombocube octahedron, and we're going to say, what if we truncated that? Now we're talking about these edges where triangles and squares are meeting, and those are going to need to get fixed a bit. Well, what that's going to do is that's going to create for us, what we're going to do is truncate those things, and the squares that will turn into octagons because their corners will be chopped off. Just like the truncated tetrahedron, those faces are hexagons because the tetrahedron had triangular faces and they got chopped off at the corners like we were looking at before, made in hexagons. These triangles are going to be made into hexagons, these squares are going to be made into octagons, and you're going to wind up with what is called the great rhombocube octahedron. The great rhombocube octahedron. Finally, we're going to do the same thing with the Rhombakasa dodecahedron, and that gives you this monstrosity, the great Rhombakasa dodecahedron. That's got decagons and octagons and hexagons. It's a busy piece of work right there. Yes, the great Rhombakasa dodecahedron. Yeah, you want to say that too. Yeah, all right. So that's what they are. Your job is to draw them or build them or learn about them or something. Do some math on them, whatever you want to do, and then be ready to report that live in our meeting on Wednesday. And that's it. I'm not going to say this is our last lesson because we're meeting Wednesday, but we're all done with videos and end of the year. All right, take care.